heart attack. Back at it like a craftmatic. All right, it's your Shooby Slang hue and it's darkness with a ginger hue. I'm here with two others. I'm gonna let them introduce themselves.
Hi, it's Devon MD Jones here, and what's going on?
How you doing? My name's Tunde. Happy to be here.
Sound like an infomercial. Did you guys like the cream that you got? So this is basically a part two because we got kicked out of our studio last time we tried to finish this on what it's like to be a Black Canadian of different backgrounds, cultures, experiences. What else did I say? What else did I say?
All of that.
Economics,
Yeah, all of it.
genders, ages, whatever the hell else you think in your brain. We're gonna try to cover it all. But where are we gonna start, guys?
Starting from, we're in my home studio,
That's where we're gonna start. Black owned studio.
Yeah.
Black owned.
I mean, it has to be Black owned.
My home,
I would hope so.
I would think that.
I don't know about home, Black rented.
Yeah,
Black
Black rented.
Black rented.
That's on point. Right on. Black rented. I like that.
Beautiful.
So welcome to my space.
It's very nice space.
Okay, you know what? So we're talking about rent and owning.
Mhm.
I don't even know how to answer this question. I'm not even so sure how to ask it. But do you guys think? Well, not even do you think? What have you felt? Is there any added pressure or lack thereof? Do you feel as a Black person in Canada financially, or your financial status or your economic status? Is there more pressure or less? Do you feel to be financially sound?
I guess it depends on your past, the people before you. If your family was hurting and they set the tone or set the bar when they first came in and they never changed, you have something to either surpass because they don't judge you at that level, and you either get out of it and surprise them, or you stay at that level and you're like, well, they're like, well, we knew, all right, we didn't want to push it, but and so again, you either accept it or you go against the grain and show them up and prove them wrong.
Good point.
Yeah, I think it comes from family, right? How you grew up. I have a certain standard that I feel like I always need to live up to. Grew up like upper middle class, and it was even just living in an apartment building was weird for me because growing up, it actually was lesser to live in an apartment building according to my social status, right?
Yeah.
So living in an apartment building, the first time I ever did it was like, oh, what's going on? Like, what am I doing? So the first chance I got, I moved into a house. I was still renting, but renting in a house, it felt different, where you can be like, oh, come over to my house versus come to my apartment. There's still some of that residual within me. Like, I've gotten over it for the most part because really, at the end of the day, it's silly. And Toronto is very expensive, but there's still residual in me sometimes that feels there's a certain amount of shame, I guess would be the thing, would be the word for it.
Yeah.
What about you?
I used to, and I've been through like probably a good spectrum, like family-wise growing up, a good spectrum of status. I think at one point, and there's also the not only the Black but the male part of it. There was a point where I was like, this and that, gotta have to be da. And well, I assume you guys know there's like we can be a very materialistic people. So the car you drive and how you dress, all that stuff was a thing for a good portion of my life. I also think because I've been through the spectrum of financial status with family, I think in me there's a it'll be okay regardless. because I've never really experienced. I've never been poor.
Mhm.
We did live in Ontario housing when I was like a baby or something like that, and moved up gradually. So I think I always feel like, especially in Canada, there's a way. You won't starve, quote unquote, unless you choose to, type thing. As long as you have a job, at least for now, that's changing as we speak. As long as
Very
you have a
quickly.
job, you should be all right in Canada. Which would be, I think, the difference between us and America. That which we segue.
Hey, wait, man. Smooth. Smooth.
Well, so this thing, so we were talking about, all of us actually brought it up that we wanted to talk about that a little bit, and we didn't really get into it yesterday. But one of the interesting conversations that I had recently is that I was speaking to a client of mine who has only lived in Canada for about 2 years. They come from an Arab country, and we just got into a deep conversation about the culture of Canada versus America. And he had no understanding of that Canada was a multicultural society versus the melting pot that America is. So he was asking me, he's like, okay, so why, he's like, why do I send my child to a school, Chinese school, right, to learn Mandarin and Cantonese when I'm in Canada? I was like, didn't I come to Canada so I could be like truly Canadian? And I was like, well, there's going to be I was like, your child is going to have a leg up if they do speak those languages in the future. And we were just like going back and forth. And then I went into he kept asking questions, and we got to the point where I was like, well, Canada is a multicultural society, right? It's not like America. America, they ingrain in you this nationalism of you're American, you come here, you leave your culture behind, and you come and you're American. Versus Canada, you come here with your culture and you keep your culture here. And one of the things that he asked, which was a question that really made me think, was, okay, so how does that work in terms of building up your nationalism and building a larger Canadian culture if everybody's stuck in their culture, right? It's gonna, I can't remember the words that he used specifically, but he's like, it's gonna end up kind of breaking society down because you're segregating, right?
I see
what, yeah,
point.
I definitely see that point, but only if you make it happen.
And is it segregation if it's always been that way? Like, that's what being Canadian is.
Well, a good example is when I was driving to this location, Lawrence. Lawrence is known for the Jewish community. It's not like they're proclaiming that this is their area, but it's their area, and we respect that. Like, it's all about the respect of, like, when you were talking last time about Eglinton, how that is known for a certain place. No one's saying this is our spot, no one's allowed. Well, no, it's just a respect thing. It's just acknowledging that that's what's there, and just like going down. No, I think
Go with the
go ahead.
To a certain extent, and it also depends who you are. In Little Jamaica, if somebody else wanted to move into Little Jamaica, they could.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to move into Forest Hill, good luck.
Why?
Well,
why is it?
Forest Hill. Forest
Is that
Hill.
financial or is that,
No, I think
I want to say it's cultural, right? Like they want to have control over what's going on within their area and who's being brought into their area.
yeah.
Well, how, okay. Maybe you don't know this.
Hmm?
How do they stop somebody from moving in there? That has
Because
the money
they own all the stuff. They own all the buildings. They own everything. So you go in and you apply to rent a space, and they're like, "No, sorry, it's rented."
Yeah.
Okay, because I understood the rent. That's
Right.
Because that's happening even in Brenton in a way.
And then, or you go in to buy a place, and they just say somebody outbid you.
Yeah.
Like they just won't. Like
They
they'll
have
choose.
control. They have-
They'll choose not to sell to you. They'll choose not to rent to you.
But that's only going in one direction.
Yeah.
It's not going the other way. So if you're
Well,
an African man that wants to go live in Little Jamaica, they're not
Yeah.
going to say,
well, the vast difference is the Jewish people probably almost do.
Exactly.
that's really so in a way it is financial, but
Yes.
it is also cultural.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
because by and large we don't own.
No, you're right. You're right. That's the underlining kind of norm.
And even within your segregations segregated neighborhoods that you're talking about,
Mhm.
there's a difference. So the neighborhood you're talking about at Lawrence, that is Orthodox Jewish,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So that is a type of Jewish community,
Right, you're right.
But if you come a little bit more south to the Forest Hill area, so which is like Eglinton area, you're going to find that it's people who are religious and they'll go to
Cynical.
synagogue.
Yeah.
I was like, what am I mixing? I'm like mixing up cultures. Synagogue on high holidays, and they'll celebrate high holidays. But for the most part, like they're pretty chill.
Mm,
You know what I mean? Like they're not as hardcore.
I got you. I got
Hardcore.
you.
So it's still segregated, and they're like blocks away from each other,
Yeah. No, you're
right?
They do it to themselves, though. It's not like it's that it's sold.
I'm okay. We're gonna go a little historical.
Yeah.
What is segregation totally a bad thing?
About
Depends on how you use it, I guess.
I don't think it's a bad thing. I actually think desegregation was most hurtful to us.
Us as the Black people.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, for sure.
because we gave up everything and got almost nothing in return.
That was a
And
bad call.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was sold to us like.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Yeah, but you were swindled. You were swindled. Yeah.
We wanted to be a part of something that we thought was better. We were taught was better than what we had.
Smoke and mirrors.
Basically,
You thought something, it
and
wasn't.
boozled again.
Yeah.
Well, because again, similar to the Jewish communities, no disrespect. I know you guys are serious. So you're backlash. Calm down, relax. It's okay. We ain't getting it. But I actually respect it, and South Asians are kind of doing or very similar that way. They're very insular with their community.
Yeah.
They want their own. They get a job.
They help
They
out.
hire their own.
Yeah.
They get a property. They rent it to their own.
Yeah.
They're not really looking to give it to outsiders, quote unquote.
Mhm.
There is the negative side of that is there are a lot of people that need a place to live, and it's freaking damn near impossible for a lot of us
Yeah.
to get these places to live because they have their community closed out. But I can't blame them for
Doing what they're doing.
I don't want to use the word exploit, but using their power.
I 100%. I've said this to you before, like especially when we're in Brampton, right?
Yeah.
When we're in Brampton, which has a very high South Asian community, and I admire the community aspect of it, and I was like, I really wish that Black people, and especially in Canada, could come together in that way, especially with the way that like we're all talking about how like we grew up. Well, you and I were talking about growing up within our communities, right? And being surrounded by our communities. And that's something that I feel like I crave. You know what I mean? Like I don't feel now that we have it in the same way. I think probably one of the good things that came from the lockdowns and like the social justice platforms being raised to attention are the fact that it kind of brought us together a little bit,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And but
No,
at the
no,
same
no.
time, it was holding us for a while. It's starting to fall apart. It's starting because there was nothing to keep it going. Like there wasn't enough.
Yeah.
Like it was being held by band-aids.
And I see what you're saying for sure.
Yeah.
Because like you said, in the Brampton community, whether hell or high water, they're going to stick together.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was a situation I think on news about the renters in Brampton I'm not sure if it was a council meeting or whatnot, but they all came in there and they were complaining about the rent being raised or whatnot. They're all over there.
We're changing the license.
The licenses. So they're all there
So,
as a community,
Mhm.
as a family
yeah.
dealing with this situation.
Right.
Why are not Black people doing the same thing? Now, it's funny you say that about the South Asian community, because the African community used to do that,
I still think they do it more than
You're
any
still
other
better at it
Black
than-
demographic.
Than the Caribbean.
No,
Any other Black.
yeah, but the thing
Well, I mean,
is, they do it to a point because
I think Haitians.
in the 80s to early 90s, you would have people who had issues coming into Canada. So you would have, say, a family like mine, bringing somebody in, keeping your house for whatever, and call them family member. And then when they had enough experience, they go off on their own.
Mhm.
But that person that goes off on their own doesn't continue the process,
Mhm.
and they also live the North American life. Then we have to bring in the next person in. So it's hard for the old school people to keep on doing it because the new school, they're not doing it.
Yeah.
And that's why we are all everywhere. Again, African wise, I don't know
Mhm.
on a Caribbean level, but I know the Africans, they stopped really doing that because no one really wants to continue the process and continue helping others. So it's just a lost cause, I guess, when it comes to migrating here.
Hmm.
It's weird.
I think like some of that has happened to the Caribbean.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think so. I know it's very similar in terms of
bringing people over.
bringing people
Mhm.
over, but I don't know if it has of it happening as often. But I mean,
I think it's easier to come into Canada now than it is back in the
Depends. It
it
depends.
depends on who you are.
It depends.
You're right. You're right.
Certain places have higher priority than others.
Yeah, because in the
Um,
'70s we were the South Asians.
Yes. You're right. We definitely.
One day I'll bring my dad on here and he'll give you a history lesson. He was a social sciences teacher.
Okay.
And he was the first one to come to Canada from my family.
Okay.
And he brought all 9 of his siblings, his mother, my mother, like, so and then at the height of his career, he was president. I think he was the president, or my Uncle Jason might have been president of BEAM, which is the Black Educators Association of Manitoba. And so they created programs that helped to bring more people in. So they would bring young women in as nannies to get them into Canada, get them set up so they would get jobs, get their citizenship, and then get them up with their skills and such and make sure that they were good.
Yeah.
And they used to go back to the Caribbean and do like conferences and stuff and help people like
set them up for
get
for
themselves.
success.
Yeah. So
That's a
it's
great program.
yeah, like it was a great program. I don't know what's happening with that now, but yeah, and I don't even know where to start like with programs like that. Like
And that's kind of the thing I was gonna say. Is we're all first generation.
mhm,
It gets diluted.
Yeah.
As it goes down. Because like I don't even think my nephew listens to reggae music like that, for example. Whereas I grew up on it. Like that's part of what I grew up on.
yeah.
But I don't think he'd be this. So that's just a light example of how the cultures get diluted if not strongly enforced by parents.
Mhm.
And then how much compared to my parents, how much am I going to instill Jamaica in the next generation?
Yeah.
That's true.
No, you're right. You're right. You have to keep the chain going.
Right.
If you don't have that pressure, or I don't want to say pressure, but that influence onto that next generation, that person will, like you said, dilute and then go off on their own, doing their own thing.
And we see that in so many various parts of culture, like from music to
Sports.
sport to everything, like
Yeah.
everything. Like,
Artwork.
the kids are different than we were.
Yeah.
Hit it.
So and you can call this a segue if you like. How much do you feel that the diluting of culture and blackness has to do with interracial relationships?
Good one. That was smooth.
Smooth segue.
Ooh, just like a silver.
Right?
Give me the 1970s.
Baby. Spent way too much time on it. Because if you think about it, right? So I have
Get my doctor tomorrow.
I was like within my family. So one of my siblings, Mary, is an interracial relationship, Black and white, and one of them has children, and both of them have children. So three in an interracial relationship, and then my other sibling has 2 in a Black family. So Black, Vincentian and Jamaican, right? Caribbean. So in terms of watching my siblings' children grow up, I always joke that it's kind of like a sociology experiment for me, because it's just like I'm so fascinated at the things that they choose to do, the areas that they choose to focus on in their lives, and what they're influenced about, and what they like, what they don't like, what the music they listen to, and all those things. And I'll tell you that the Black family still knows things about Black culture. The interracial one pretty much knows nothing about Black culture.
Now, where are they located? So where are they located?
I don't think it has any, and honestly,
Yeah, I
it has nothing to
agree.
do with
No,
location.
well,
It has to do because
I mean, it does.
But-
It does.
But
you
I don't
also
think it's a
have to
major.
know that culture, most of the time, is handed down through the mother,
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
right?
100%, yeah.
Most of the time.
Hence
No,
why
yeah, you're right. No,
even the religious rule that
Yeah.
the child follows the mother's religion. If there's two different religions in the household, child goes with the mother's.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, wait. Is that
unwritten
the rule?
Most of
It's
the
an unwritten rule. Most
Okay,
countries.
mine
Here's the mothers.
is different. Mine is more the father
Yeah.
that takes over the religious.
Oh, okay.
But, because I know that because again, my grandmother was Muslim, whereas my grandfather was Christian, and so my father
One Christian.
went Christian.
Right.
And it follows suit after that.
Yeah.
But it does make sense in terms of what you're saying in terms of
Because in
the
history,
woman
the woman was
and the
more of a
mother.
teacher. Right?
Yes, and I was going to say
Cool.
an example again, growing up, 80s and 90s, culturally, the mother would be running the show in terms of. I mean, we had to go to language school. Remember how Sagresh was talking about how you had to talk a certain way?
Mhm.
My mother made sure we had to go Sunday school, but Sunday, cultural school.
Mhm.
So you had to do your numbers, your letters, language, and so forth. We had, like you said, the associates we had in Winnipeg. We had them here, and we had culture. But again, it was mostly the women that made it happen.
Yeah.
So I when you were saying, when I was saying, sorry, that the location that is the problem, I stand corrected. It's not the location per se; it's the effort of the family
Yeah.
that helps. And again, sometimes life happens, and that mother can't do whatever, and they have to put down the
Or
back
she
burner.
simply doesn't know.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, but again, if you like I said,
And sometimes it's economical.
yes,
Like,
exactly.
economics play a huge part in that also,
Yeah,
right?
because sometimes they need funding for certain things.
Exactly.
They need buildings. They
Nothing
need
is cheap.
material. So
Free.
when they can't get it, it waters down and it's gone.
Yeah.
So I understand that 100%. On the flip side, though, this is why I said it's mostly the area. Again, I have a biracial daughter.
Mhm.
It's Nigerian and indigenous Métis. However, their school, even though it's Black History Month, they're pushing indigenous culture and so forth. So I can't step up and say, hey, why are you not talking about Black history? Because they're known to be preaching based on their location that there's a more heavy presence of indigenous culture. So they're going to push that. That's why I said the location usually dictates, but I stand corrected. If you tail it back, it's the family or it's the presence of the mother or the father even that pushes that culture onto your children, siblings, whoever.
But that's also her mother's culture, right?
It is. But again, it's
also the school.
Yeah,
I get that,
but
it's still
even the Caucasian kids there that have no type of culture,
they're
they're still
gonna get
learning
the
Mhm.
that Métis culture, but they're not going to get the African or the Jamaican culture because that's that area, right? So that's why I said the location, because I know here, I don't know what they're teaching in the schools now. It's weird
You're
because
like the only one that maybe.
I honestly don't know what's being taught in schools outside of Winnipeg because they say that they're just almost like it's like on autopilot. You get the textbook and they just go. There's no real interaction anymore.
No, I mean, area education there is a dependency on area, but again, they're both factors. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Both factors because, sorry to use you like this, but you could still teach her Black History Month at home.
That's right.
So
And that's where I learned all my Black history.
Right. There you go.
Was at home. because I
That
grew
makes
up in
sense.
There you
Winnipeg.
have it.
No, that makes
Where
sense.
I didn't learn it at home, and I didn't really learn it in school. I learned it in university. More, and not even learned it because
Appreciate
was-
it, maybe.
there was a self-awareness to a degree, because again, when in the 90s, hip hop being a big influence in my life, there was a lot of Pan-Africanism in hip hop, in music at that time. Yeah, or in urban music. So because of that, I would seek it out myself as well. Like they mentioned the Malcolm X, I'm gonna go look for the book.
Yeah.
They mentioned this guy, I'm gonna go, who is this? Oh, who's that? They don't have that now either. Like that's not, at least not in a popular sense of it. It's not there.
Well, now it's changed because, I mean, I'll say, due to the recent uproar of the country scene with Beyonce, because now Beyonce is doing country there, and she'll say this and say that. Now the young kids are going to research how many black country singers are there. What's their artist like?
I don't.
I would ask, like, who's Darius Rucker? Like
Who said
people that because they're saying no, country music was not black. So no,
who said this?
people that I've talked to in Winnipeg.
Older
Winnipeg.
In Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Because again,
Yeah, but I thought you were talking about kids. I don't know.
no, just people in general.
Not kids,
Yeah.
people.
No,
Yes.
but again, the music is geared to the kids though. So they're eventually going to start asking
Let's hope so.
who's again. Well,
Beyonce?
hopefully.
Let's hope so.
Give it to the kids.
No, the music in general.
Agree.
I wouldn't say she's geared to them, but I think
Kids are like teenagers. When you
Yeah,
say
you're right.
kids,
You're right. You're
when
right.
you say
Maybe not
kids, I'm thinking like,
I'm not talking children.
yeah,
No, sorry, I'm not talking children. But I'm saying,
like 20-year-olds.
well, we'll say
Yeah, no, you're right.
16 to
Not really
20.
geared to kids. Not
No.
anymore.
No, but because of
I
again,
didn't before.
we'll go back to
Well, when did you first start listening?
Destiny's Child.
Yeah.
When I was in university, but they're like younger than me, so
Yeah.
it's
That's what I'm
hard.
saying. So
It's
there-
hard to say.
And
Like
there's people younger
high
than you.
school was kind of like high school. I'll say like my equivalent would probably be like a TLC, right?
Right.
So
Mhm.
that was high school,
Mhm.
right? And that's when I actually started paying attention to music. Before that, I didn't. So, but they have like they're Swifties, like you know what I mean. They're
Yeah.
not. It's funny because like people compare. This is a whole side conversation, but like people comparing Taylor Swift to Beyonce, their audience is completely different. Like
Mhm.
it was like Beyonce's audience is like 30 and up, and Taylor Swift is like 30 and younger. So like, why are you even trying to compare them? Like it's just different. Like I don't even know
To be
why they
honest,
even have
I
to be
think
compared.
their audiences are
polar
Yeah,
opposites.
they're-
not even opposites per se. They span.
Oh, from the teenagers to the 50
Not.
year
I'm
old.
not. I don't think either one of maybe more Beyonce, but I don't think either one of them are older
Surpassing.
people, super older, like
Right.
50s are into them. But I think from like you're saying,
Yeah.
maybe even 40 down,
Mhm, mhm.
they have those fans. They might be slightly different, but I don't think they're that vastly. Besides,
They're pretty much neck and neck in terms of
they're
They're
different
very
in,
different.
in culture.
no, in terms of influence. That age group, those age group you're saying, they're pretty much the same. No one has a higher influence.
I would
than
have
the
to
other.
look at the actual
Stats.
stats of it, but I don't, because I'm speaking as an outsider. I don't really
Listen,
care about either one.
right.
To be honest. So I don't- but circling back, circling back.
I know. There
Um,
was something I wanted to. Ask.
I want to answer your question. I do. To answer the question, is multicultural dating affecting? Oh, so we're being specifically black people's awareness of their culture? Absolutely, I think so. Which can be a good and a bad thing. More bad for us, I think,
I don't think it's. I
because
don't think
we
it's any
need it the
good.
most.
Yeah.
We need our identity, our awareness more than any other culture or quote unquote race.
I
The
think
only way I would say it's not as horrible is, and it's usually only the girls, but biracial black women, because they are black women, biracial black women will tend to go harder on racial issues and do a little bit.
Really?
push more
They'll
Okay.
push more.
because they don't want to
Yeah.
lose
Okay.
that identity or.
There is a certain amount of I have something to prove,
Mm.
Okay.
and I'm not mad. So I was like, go ahead, prove it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, prove it.
Okay.
Like,
Take
it's
it back.
not a bad thing or anything.
Mhm.
But circling back to
Oh, sorry. Before you say
right.
that, let's make a joke. Let's make a joke. The other bright side is we're infiltrating the camp. It's the browning of the nation.
Smoothing it out. Everything's gonna be mocha.
Yeah.
Mocha. Everything's gonna be mocha. Well, hey folks, I've done my part. Too. I go to set.
So browning of the nation. Okay.
Mocha.
So I also had a very long discussion with the parentals. So when I was in my university,
Superhero.
I know.
Hey.
when I was in my when I was in university around there, it was after university. I used to go. My mom used to go to. Well, my parents in general used to go do the snowboard thing in St. Vincent,
Okay.
and so they would always go at Christmas time. And so I would always go. So they would always be there in the winter, so I'd always go for Christmas. So
Okay.
I'd always be in St. Vincent around Christmas time.
Okay.
And because I am the youngest, unmarried, no kids, that was kind of my
Yeah,
responsibility.
you're expected to go there.
That was kind of my responsibility to
Nothing's
go
holding you
and check in on the parents,
Mhm.
right? And then even after, so my parents are divorced now. So after my parents' divorce, like I feel like I got kind of pulled up to the table because I was like in my 30s by that time, and it's finally like where everybody feels like you're a real adult.
Mhm.
So you're sitting at the table, you're having grown conversations with the people that like raised you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like my mom, my play aunties and uncles that are all Vincy that I grew up with. They're all they're all part of St. Vincent Association, you know. So like I knew them all for years, and getting into deep conversations with them. And one of my play uncles, he asked the question because we were talking about the association growing up and how all the girls were all involved in it, but none of the boys were. And then how all the girls are in relationships or dating Black men, and none of the men are. And I think that both of those things are highly correlated.
Explain.
And I also explained that to them. They're like, well, how come none of the men date or search for Black women? And I was like, because you guys didn't ingrain culture in them and the importance of it and make it something that was great and amazing for them in the way that you did for the girls. Because for the boys, it was a choice whether you would be in the dance group.
Right.
It was a choice whether you would be a part of the association, right? Whereas the girls, it was this is what you do. This is you go here, you're in the association, you're there. So there was to the boys, there was not as much pull because none of the other boys were in there, right? Because of the one boy, the first couple, there was like one boy who was in it, and then we all started in it, right? And then eventually one boy was allowed out, and they're like, well, he's allowed out, can I be allowed out? And everybody filtered out, and then they're no longer really involved in our culture, right? And then our culture, like I've even heard, I'm not gonna name names, I've heard one of my relatives, male relatives, being like, oh, I don't even want to go to St. Vincent. All those women are gonna just try to take my money. And I
That
was
sounds
like,
like Michael.
and I was like, first and foremost,
I shouldn't say that. It's not Michael.
I don't have Michael in my family. I was like, what? I know.
This just got juicy.
That joke, ladies and gentlemen, was not smooth. And the funniest thing is, I was like, first of all, you don't have any money. Our parents do,
Oh.
but it was just like, and it was just like so unsolicited. Like it was just like the statement, and I was like, where did you get that?
He's been
And why does it actually even matter?
Yeah, no, but it's just
Well,
like why?
yeah.
But what is it that
You're
you
insulting
think?
your
Yeah, and it's like, what is it that you don't that someone
Appreciate.
has showed you
Yeah.
about Black women as a whole
Yeah.
that makes you like not like us? And growing up, we like you know we all grew up together.
Something changed them.
There's
or
another
someone-
thing there. There's another thing that I don't realize. Did you growing up? Do you feel like you had the I don't want to say pressure, but was it ingrained in you as much like get a light skinned guy because that helps your status?
not from family, from more from television, from society. From society, and part of it was I used to date exclusively light-skinned guys. But I honestly started dating really late. So, but I shouldn't say exclusively, but I was attracted more to light-skinned guys because that was more an ideal thing. And it was only light-skinned guys would actually give me any attention.
Which is very interesting.
That's
Yeah, I wouldn't even expect that.
I
But
thought-
no, actually, I can't expect.
It
No,
does
no,
because,
No, that makes sense.
but it does make sense because like I
Is this in
remember
Winnipeg or is this in here?
this is all over. This
Okay.
is like
I was trying
Winnipeg,
to
Windsor,
figure out-
Toronto,
It does make sense.
traveling.
because
We used to travel every summer as a family.
okay.
And so like all the places, so we'd be in like New York, Boston, Toronto, like every summer.
So
we were
that's
in
the
places. Yeah.
reason why.
But one of my exes, I remember thinking about it and like just watching him and like how he was trying so hard to be more black, right?
Oh.
And so I think there's like something
Yes.
ingrained in both of us
Yes.
is that we both wanted children that didn't have to go through the crap that we went through. So he got teased for being light skinned, soft, all those things. I got teased for being dark skinned, masculine, all those things
So you
that
want
go
to
with
make sure you
those.
mesh it all
So you're
together,
both trying to give your children
the better.
a better chance
The same reason why a dark skinned guy may not give you attention because
Yeah.
he doesn't want dark kids.
because he doesn't want his children to go through what he
There's
went
a
through.
self-hatred
Yes,
in there.
Mine was more so culture. My parents wanted me to make sure I found somebody of my own of African descent because he didn't want to lose the culture.
Yeah.
And
Now, did it matter where in Africa they were from?
Nigeria.
I was gonna say,
Nigerian. No, but the Nigerian was the home base. But
Yeah.
if you found someone in Kenya or whatever, yeah, like,
Okay.
it's Africa.
At least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, that I hate to say it, pushed me away a little bit because they put all the onus on me to the point where they were saying we're going to send you to Nigeria to find someone to bring.
Damn.
Like they were very, very adamant about it, and I now respect that more now because how society is. Because again, I've gone through a few different relationships, both of different races, and I'm like, man, I don't know if I would have the same issues with a Nigerian woman who had the same upbringing or morals or background of what I had based on what my family is, because I know how my family was or how my mother and father were. I knew how it was. It was the blueprint was there.
Right.
So they're saying, hey, this is the blueprint. For you to have the same blueprint, marry somebody of your own culture so you have no hassles in life. I get that. It's not a guarantee, but I get it. So that's why I'm like, man, if I only listen. But at the same time, it's no guarantee, but that was the pressure for me when growing up because I was confused, totally confused. I didn't know if I should accept what they're saying or go against the grain. So when I did go against the grain, I was blacklisted in terms of you're just doing this, you're doing that, you're not
just doing this.
interesting choice of words.
black.
You're whitelisted, man.
See that's
Yeah.
That was
sorry. So like if you look at all three of us, so you've done more interracial dating.
Yes.
You do no interracial dating,
Not in my adult years.
and I've done a little bit of both.
Mhm.
So we're at the two extremes, and I'm in the middle.
Mhm.
All right.
I'm an extreme.
What made you go in the way that you chose? Because his was almost like rebellion.
Yeah.
Like don't tell me
Yeah.
what to do.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to say that, but internally, you have to say that. You have to admit it when you're growing up and like, yeah, I didn't want to hear that. I didn't want to hear it. I want to do me.
Yeah.
Let me choose who I want. That's what I thought.
Yeah. That makes sense. I was talking about this the other day with somebody. And for as long as I can remember, besides like, well, okay, let's not even say long. Since maybe like grade 10, which is what, 16?
Yeah. Roughly
15,
16.
16?
Yeah.
I've been more attracted to dark skinned women. Especially black dark skinned women. Even in
What other dark skin would there be?
even dark skinned South Asians.
Okay.
Okay. Dark skin. In my past, I've been more into Filipinos.
Okay, yeah. I didn't mean to make a pun. Or I was
Lankings than any other South for examples, like these are
Yeah,
just
yeah,
examples.
that makes no.
I think that is a good question. I think in the beginning, and which is why I asked the question about the pressure of finding light skin or white skin.
Mhm.
That was in the back of my head when I was dating more multiculturally. Like I've dated white girls before that, like in grade 9 and stuff. When you're trying to find your footing and what you like.
Yeah.
I dated white girls then and then but also there's the stereotypes. Like there is the which leads to why I don't date white girls now. There's the Mandingo effect, which in grade 9, a lot of my experiences were that. Like women were dating me because either they wanted to upset their parents or
just experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're being used.
At least that's how it felt. Even and a lot of times. Yeah. And again, you're an idiot. But again, much of what you're saying talks about now you appreciate it because you might think about would I have gone through these things with a woman of my own background. That's how I feel. Like it's just feels easier to be with a woman, a Black woman. And for a long time, we talked about this. I didn't date very many girls that weren't Jamaican background. I dated Guyanese girls and so forth, but not many. Not many. It's usually been Jamaican Black girls or background of Jamaican first generation.
So you actually kept it in a very tight circle in terms of who you were
for the most
interested in, or even put yourself out there for.
Yeah,
wow.
For the most part.
I feel like I wanted like a Vincent man for like a long time.
I mean,
and like if I could have like had the choice of like the perfect man for me and he was Vincent, you know what I mean? Like
no, I get it.
That was, like I totally get that. Like there's no
I was the same.
That makes complete sense.
I was the same until the pressure came on.
Yeah.
Because
that
Nigerian women are beautiful and they're headstrong and whatnot. However, when you keep on getting that in the air, I'm like,
I think I would have done the same
let me live, right? And then when you go back home, and they're bringing people to you to go out on these dates, and I'm what 16, 17. I'm like, I don't even know where that is, and you're telling me my auntie's gonna go take me to go see this girl to have fun with this girl. I'm like, what? Can I get your number? Your dad said. I'm like, my dad said. What do you mean, my dad said? I don't even know who your dad.
Going back to your cousin point, there's another part of that. I've also always felt like I couldn't really date a Jamaican woman because there's a difference.
100%.
It's funny, my cousin, one in we were talking, and he's like, yeah, it's good that your girlfriend's not Jamaican because those Jamaican girls, bro. And I was like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah,
I understand.
Yeah.
Because a Jamaican, I think there's a difference. There is a.
Of course.
But he's Jamaican.
He's a born Jamaican man.
Yeah.
But he knows better. Not say better, but he knows of what he's talking about.
Yes. Married to a Jamaican woman.
Yes.
But she's Canadian.
Yes. If I remember correctly.
Yes.
Yeah.
But he's telling you through experience, and you're lucky because this is how it is.
And I can't, in my experience, he's kind of right. And that's just my experience. I'm not saying they're all like that, but he's kind of right in my experience. It can be a handful compared to.
It's funny.
I'm not a handful?
No, really.
Thank goodness.
Do you want to be a handful? And this is why I'm expanding my topic. Because Black women want to be a handful. We go to a different place. But I don't actually, you're not like that. But I actually don't understand. This is why we'll the whole conversation. But I don't understand why a lot of Black women seem to pride themselves on being difficult.
Okay, so I have a question that kind of relates to that and relates to what you were saying. So within my household, I would say that my brother probably had the same amount of pressure that you had in terms of that. But I don't think that we didn't have that same amount of pressure either.
In terms of the women in the
Yeah.
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
pressure, we had the same pressure. So why did the men run from it and the women ran towards it?
I think the men felt like they had no choice.
Yeah, I think it's more they I can go walk out and
That's my first thing.
Yeah.
I think the men just feel like they have no choice.
Yeah. Actually, fun fact, I never dated anybody in fear of disappointment of what they were looking for.
You never, huh? Explain that.
I did not date anyone through high school, elementary, like serious.
Yeah.
No one until
Just because you
college.
didn't think it would be good enough for your parents?
Yeah.
I think.
And anybody that I was seeing was more under the under the table type of thing. Only because again, I just thought
I just remembered something.
I just didn't want them to, because black people, they talk. So all of a sudden you bring this girl over and then everybody's talking. So now all of a sudden you're the talk of town. I didn't want to be the talk of the town. As much as I love attention, I didn't want that because that's the negative attention. So now you can't live your life. So I kept everything under wraps until again, college-ish. I started dating a Trinidadian girl. But again, even that wasn't
what you think
yeah.
they wanted.
Yeah. So I'm like, I just kept on just doing my thing.
You have a very good point. I didn't feel like that, not necessarily the cultural part of it, but there is I'm not bringing this girl around. Like, and there is that the kind of for me, I couldn't fathom bringing a white girl.
I did.
I couldn't fathom it. To be honest with you, I couldn't fathom bringing any other race than a black girl home. Tell you this, I don't know if we.
I have a story after this.
I don't know if I told this
Go
story
ahead. Yeah.
before. But I think I told you this story. But there's a time in university, and there's a Filipino girl that I had. We went to high school together, and we liked each other. Like we realized we liked each other. So one day, I had a headache. And we're in the student center or whatever, and there's like a couch. So she's sitting down. So I have a headache, so I end up laying on her lap, right? And I'm laying there with my eyes closed, trying to get my headache. I happened to open my eyes, and these three black girls that we both know and they're cool with both of us walked by. No, didn't say anything. Didn't even look at us a certain way. But I felt like guilty, bro. Like I was like, oh, yeah, I'm gonna go.
Yeah, I gotta step away.
And this is a beautiful Filipino girl. Everybody liked her. She hung with us. Like she was
This part of the clique.
honorary black to a degree. But it still felt like I'm doing something wrong.
I had like a very similar story. In university, there was this guy, very good looking, hung with the black people, white guy, tall, athletic, basketball, super fit, like just like good looking guy. Now he's a doctor of all things. And and I just remember, and I liked him. I actually we were all like, there was a group of us that were friends. We used to hang out. And he liked me and I liked him. And then I remember the first time that we were hanging out somewhere and he kind of like, I don't remember what it was, but he was like super close. And then some black guys walked by and I was like, yeah. And I felt so like I got my feelings about it. And I felt like so like, yeah, I felt so bad for like years and years and years.
Were you embarrassed, or were you just disappointed in yourself in terms of what you
I was embarrassed.
No, I was embarrassed.
Really?
Yeah, I was embarrassed. I didn't get.
Which is not a good.
I wasn't really disappointed in what I did until years later. Like, you know what I mean? Like looking back and you're like, oh, that's horrible.
Well, I
sorry.
Go ahead.
I look back at it the same way, but it's not more so of what I did. It's what I probably made her feel.
That's what I mean. Like I feel bad how I made him feel, not because
No,
like I'm like that was dumb, and I was like also I really really liked him, and I was like you really like messed yourself up.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Just
yeah. Just because of the
other people's
overthinking,
perception.
the overthinking in your head kind of threw you off.
Yeah,
and I get it because again you're built not to disappoint parents. That's what you're ingrained to. Hey, follow the rules, follow the teachings. You should be good when you come out at the end.
I don't think it was more as much my parents as like friends and stuff like that.
Yeah, okay.
For me, it stems from parents.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You were taught a certain way, but it then branches out. Yeah, your black friends are like, oh.
And it's not even something that was ever said in the house. It's not like they said.
Oh, they said it in my house.
They
said it in my house.
No, my parents never.
Mine did.
I totally never bring home a wife. Yeah. I was never. It was insinuated. I could say that at best, but it was never outright said. My mom will tell you, like, she would never tell me not to date somebody because I probably would for that reason. So she would do the opposite. Reverse psychology was right.
Funny thing though, because again, I did date a Nigerian woman. Actually, she was half Nigerian, half Asian. And when my father knew, he almost was like doing cartwheels. Like he was excited. This was in college, and I'm like, yeah, bring her home. Bring her here. So again, and she already had a child at the time. So at one point, she was coming over just to meet everyone, and we were gonna go to her house to celebrate her daughter's birthday. And again, my dad is old school. He goes, come here. Goes to the wallet. Give this to your daughter. Just because anybody else that was not Nigerian, he would not do the same thing. But because she was, he wanted to make sure that you're welcome and your house is my house. My money is your money. Go off and do your thing. Fast forward again, that didn't pan out. But fast forward, I had a white girl come over. And well, no, it was close, but he told me again. He told me I don't want that person in. But and this is the funny part, because over time, when he saw that I wasn't really with anybody, he drops his guard. Almost every other year, he dropped his guard and said, you know what, just be happy. Just find someone.
Well, that's we do that for ourselves.
Most, but the fact that he opened up, so hey, if you want to get a wife for me, go ahead. So I had a girl who was living. She was from Sudbury, came over, and she met her for the first time, and they were talking hockey and all this stuff. I'm like,
who's this?
It's the same guy?
This is Pops. What? Okay. So again, that didn't pan out, but I was surprised. And later on, he's just like, he just wants me to be happy. So finally, when I had my daughter, he was ecstatic just because he found someone that you would like to be with. So I think the wall comes down when they get older, just because it's not about, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong saying it, but it's not about the culture when they're at 60, 70. They just want you to be happy.
That's a good parent, what I would call, quote unquote, a good parent.
And that's why I'm like, okay. So when I made the decision, or when I did make the decision to be who I'm with or who I'm choosing, I know he's not going to give me drills about, hey, this person not this culture, that person that. However, he does throw some jabs. He does throw some jabs. He says, Baba's name, if she was Nigerian, you would not have this problem. I'm just telling you. And you want to, I'm just telling you. And then he'll go. And I'm like, I'm not like, okay, Dad. You got
What can you say?
But didn't you just say that that might be the case? That might.
Yeah. No.
Here's the thing in general, I find. Our parents were right more times than they were wrong.
85% of the time, for sure. 85% of the time.
They always had our best interests in mind, but a lot of times we were not ready to hear it.
Now you fast forward to now, we understand what they were doing.
You get it more.
That's why I appreciate the teachings I got. The links I got, I appreciate them.
You know what it is? Okay, I agree. I think it was a good intention, but it wasn't relayed for us to understand at the time. I don't know about you guys, but a lot of things that my parents were right about when they taught me, where they were teaching me growing up, it was because I said so. It wasn't because it wasn't explained why.
But because I said so is really just because it was passed down to them, right? But it was just all you heard was because I said so.
Yeah,
that's all you heard. Yeah, you're right. I'm the same way. Is because I said so was really because the community said this is how it should be.
Right.
And also, they don't have time. They don't have time to be explaining.
Yeah, that's true. There was less patience back in the 80s and 90s. 100%.
I
What
feel
did I
like-
say? Not as I do.
Yep.
I feel like sometimes, like with my nieces and stuff, and like my sister-in-law says this a lot. That with like, she's like, "Oh, why do you guys listen to your auntie more than you listen to us?" Sometimes, and I was just like, because I'm only there every once in a while. Like I'm not there all the
You
time,
got that knowledge.
right?
Mhm.
And then also, I was like, I can take time and like be like, okay, like you asked me a specific question, I'm going to
Break
take
it
time
down.
and answer that question. Whereas you're asking your mom a million questions all the time.
Yes.
Like she doesn't have the time, energy,
I see what
like
you're
you know what I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly.
like to deal with that constantly.
Yeah.
So just like little things, like if I could drop a little bit of knowledge and be like really specific with them and take the time and answer their whys and like
Mhm.
this is why, well, even like my sister's oldest, when she was little and I used to babysit her a lot, I would, even when she was a baby, before she could speak, you'd be like, no, don't do that. And she'd keep doing it. Then I learned quickly, it'd be like, don't do that because you're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
And if you're going to hurt, then you're going to cry and like just tell her. And then she'd be like, huh. And then she'd stop doing it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
it came,
Yeah.
and I was just
It
like,
became easier for her, for
Yeah.
you.
yeah, because it was just like, oh, you're telling me why versus like everybody tells me no all the
Yeah.
time. So
Yeah.
why?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But because, like you said, you had the time to
Yeah.
explain. You didn't have 1,000 things going on in your head to
Yep.
deal with it. So
I knew that was my dedicated time with her. So like I'm
It's a good point.
laser focused and
that's why you have the fun uncle, the fun aunt, the smart aunt, the this whatever.
Good point.
And again, most kids now, they relate to the sibling or the aunt or the uncle better than their own parents.
Mhm.
They'll go to them if they've done something wrong and they're
Mhm.
close. They'll go to the aunt, go to the uncle before they'll go to grandma or grandpa or their mom and dad.
Mhm.
Aunt or the uncle will definitely get that first.
Yeah.
And
One thing is not you don't have the same. You're not, because they're not your child. You don't have the same.
the same power.
No, the same feeling of responsibility.
Mm.
So you can be more honest with them. Like I think sometimes parents, they're afraid to, I'm not even saying this is conscious stuff. This is subconscious. A lot of times they're afraid to. Let's take it back to our ages. They're afraid to explain things because they think they're exposing things to them that they might try.
Mm.
Right? Like
Okay.
not giving us sex education because they're afraid we might go out and try
Yeah.
it after they teach us about it.
Gotcha.
Whereas as an aunt or an uncle, you don't have that same pressure
Mhm.
because they're not, even if they were going to go and try it, they're not bringing that child home to you.
Yeah.
That's not.
Carefree.
This is, again, I don't think it's conscious. I don't think any of this is necessarily a conscious effort. I think it's in you. Also, there's also the point, because they're not your child, you don't necessarily expect them to do as you say. You know,
It's just
you're my child, you gotta listen to me.
You're just getting.
We don't have that feeling because they're not our child. So
Take the
I can tell
information
you
like
something.
right.
do what you want with it,
Yes. Do what you want with that. Yeah.
for the
I get it.
most part.
I can see that.
There's no
No real obligation to
there's
listen.
no necessarily no pride involved in that exchange
Well,
of information.
Direct pride. Overall
Right,
pride.
no direct pride.
But
You still
yes.
care about
Yeah. Yeah.
their well-being, but there's no that
Yeah.
they're a reflection of you. type.
Right. Right.
You know what?
No.
You don't really have that as much.
Yeah.
I think that's more uncle versus auntie.
Well,
Maybe.
nurture.
Maybe.
There's a certain level. I think it's you have a higher responsibility as an auntie. I think you're given us more of a responsibility as an auntie.
Does that depend on how close the bond is you
I was
have
going to
with
say
that?
that. And does that
Because-
depend on what the gender,
What the
of the
gender
child
is? Yeah, I was gonna say that is too.
Possibly.
Because I feel that way more
Poss-
from my niece than my nephew. I agree with that. Like
Possibly.
that responsibility.
Yeah.
I feel the protection thing. I feel it more for my niece.
I only have nieces, so that's hard for me to say. But if I look at my friends who have female friends who have nephews,
Mhm.
I would still say that responsibility is
I
there.
can kind of see it though. I can kind of see it.
Yeah.
Natural nurture thing.
I guess with myself, I think it's more pride for the nephew, protection for the niece, for me.
No, that makes sense to me
right?
too.
Because I mean, this is the guy who's going through, whatever. I not living through them, but just overseeing and seeing, hey, you know what? And if you want to, you can bring them back. Hey, if you did this a little bit better, maybe you do this, blah blah blah. Whereas the niece, I haven't, but she's very very small. But again, like I would even compare it to my own daughter, because I'd make sure she understands the nurture part of things, the caring, loving, and whatnot, rather than the pride of being the name that people think of or whatnot. I don't know, just a different mindset for me.
Okay, so to bring it back a little bit again,
Mm.
what do you guys think you do? What roles do you play for your children or your nieces in instilling Black culture in them?
I give all my nieces Black shit.
Skin Black shit.
I give them Black shit.
Black shit.
I make sure they follow me on social media. What I post, I know that they're gonna see. So, I don't try not to post some ratchet shit every once in a while. It comes through, but because sometimes it's just funny. But right there, But yeah, I try to. And I also just try to be the representation that they need.
So they can turn to say,
Yeah.
this is my auntie, and she
I
just
always say that I've done 2 TV shows, like national TV shows and competition type stuff, and every time that I do it for my nieces, because I want them to be able to see. First one was Canada's Smartest Person, and I wanted to be like, look, and I was like, first Black woman on the show, might be the only contestant on the show for the 5 or 6 seasons that it ran. And it was, and just to show them, and I was like, look, you're more than like athletes, you're more than like, you're smart, you're like, you can do all these different things. And then I went on an athletic show too, and I was just like, look, even when you get older, you can still do these things. Like, you know what I mean? There's no limit to the stuff that you can and cannot do.
Yeah. That's true. I'm thinking about competition. I'm like, well, I wonder if it would have been the same type of mindset if I was on Big Brother, because I was that close to being on Big Brother. And I'm like, no, I don't think I can use that as power trips for.
It's a different.
Yeah, but
It's a different kind of show.
There's intelligence in that.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying I wouldn't be putting that on my daughter, saying,
No,
hey,
that's
you know
just-
what?
yeah,
You can be this person.
You can grow up and be a Big
I
Brother.
don't want you even
The
fall.
shows that I was on were very more like.
Yeah, and
It
more
was very
powerful.
empowering, especially for women.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's
I
amazing.
have
For sure.
athletic something, and then even in just like how I run my business, how I show up on my social media. Even part of me going natural was because when my sister's kids were coming up, and they were just like, "Oh, I want my hair long and straight like aunties," and I was like, "Oh boy," and I was like, "Okay, we're
No
going."
more of that.
Yeah, like we're cutting that out. I need to be. I was like, now I'm not. It's not just me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then now it's like when I want to wear my hair like auntie, like it's like they want to wear their hair curly, So that I remember them saying that, So
But speaking as a guy who's never been on shows or auditions, watching shows, I'm a person who likes to watch shows with Black people on it. The representation is important, regardless of the show. That representation is important. So it can be, regardless of what, I mean, of course, these type of shows, maybe not so much, but it's still good to see Black people on television, in movies. We talked about this the other day. As high as Obama being the president might just be a figurehead symbolistic thing. He didn't do great for us as a people, quote unquote.
He was still there.
Him being there lets another Black kid believe that they could be there.
well, even
That's
like
important.
they're doing a movie about Shirley Chisholm and how she ran for president. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh,
Like
wow.
even just
They're
like
doing
the movie, it's about to come out.
Oh,
Regina King. Regina King.
She's
Yeah,
doing it?
she's playing Shirley.
Interesting.
And her sister's in it as another.
Regina King's sister?
Yeah.
No, sister.
I was like, oh yeah,
It's cool.
you do. But the funniest thing is,
I
you've
probably
seen
do.
her, and I was like, that's your sister. Yeah.
Now to bring it back in terms of me teaching my daughter in terms of Black, I've dropped the ball. I'm not gonna lie. Life is just whatever.
But that's why we're having this conversation.
Right. No, I get it. But at the same time, I subconsciously know what I need to do
Mhm.
to keep black in hair, because their hair, well, the most important thing, as you stated, is hair, women's hair.
Mm.
And I did not, if you see pictures of her, she goes off and the hair is just not how it should be.
Wild.
Yeah. And I'm like, I can't have that stigma of that just being okay. So I've turned to my friend Shauna, who's helped me, and as other people as well, have told me to.
Your family in Winnipeg
No, I know, no.
run the hair, or like
Yes.
the hair
No.
capital
Yes,
of
but
Winnipeg.
yes, but they're busy. Yes, I get it. But I'm saying this is me.
Yeah.
She's not going to go to them all the time. I'm in the house, so I have to wash her hair. I have to make sure. I have to tell her why it has to be conditioned, why it has to be in a bonnet, and all this. So I'm doing that part
Mhm.
to protect the blackness of her hair
Mhm.
before it goes off into the wind and she wants it straight. Because again, her mother is a hairdresser,
Mm.
so at one point something's going to be done to the hair,
Right.
whether cut, style, or whatever. And I have really no control per se, but I mean, I can definitely put my 2 cents and say, hey, let's keep this healthy. So when it does come time to it, you'll know, or you'll have a voice to say, yeah, I don't want that haircut, mommy, or I want to keep my hair this way, or whatever. So that's my
Right.
kind of attempt to keep the blackness in her strong.
Simple, but not so simple suggestion. And to Devon's point, there is something to black hair salons and black barbers.
Mhm.
Carrying your child there, I think, should be an experience that every black parent brings their child to a black barber or black hair salon.
Yeah,
Because that experience, it's deeply ingrained in our culture.
I guess you're right. Yeah,
It's because our hair.
I only didn't do it because again, I didn't want to ruffle feathers with her mom. Her mom,
Yeah, I
is a
get that
hairdresser.
too. Yeah.
So for me to take it to another salon or somewhere else, she'll be asking why.
I get that.
I don't want the headache.
Get into that.
Yeah, I
You don't want the headache, but you also
want to keep so it's like
you want to make sure, because that is
the bigger.
your daughter's confidence.
Yes, and that's why I was like, I dropped the ball. So I'm like, now again, I'm buying everything that needs to be bought. I'm kind of going through the motions of what needs to be done. Now, like you said, taking her to the salon, taking her in to see my cousins to say, hey, this is how Auntie wears her hair.
Right.
This is how we do it. What are these rollers for? Blah blah. So
Yeah.
she gets associated with it, so she can now, when it's her time, when she gets of knowledge of it, she now understands why and when and where you can do all this, rather than depending on her mom. Again, no jab for mom. Her mom's a great hairstylist. She's done it for years. She's a great barber as well. But at the same time, me as
Or black hair.
yes. Well, no,
And
she's done
it's-
black hair, but I mean, she doesn't get that all the time.
Yeah.
So I'm like, let me just switch.
And it's the
gears.
social aspect of it too.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not only about the hair itself; it's also the social.
Yeah.
Black barber shop is definitely different than a white barber shop.
Oh.
Well,
And well, hair salons aren't that different anymore. Like it's not.
Mhm.
It's not. Well, it depends.
different.
They're not like they used to be, but I also go to better hair salons. That might be-
I think
that might be
barbers
hard,
can be
yeah.
very multicultural too.
Yeah.
Yeah, barber. Because I just went to one and I realized that it's the same flow, different generations, same flow. You'll talk to sports,
Mhm.
talk to politics, chatter, and be gone. Whereas I don't know if that would happen in a white barber shop as well. They might do the chatter, but not as animated or whatnot. So I mean, it's all in the same.
Ironically,
Mhm.
I don't think did we get here? We didn't even get here. We talked about this being the main topic. But ironically, I think that it's much different in American black hair salons
Oh yeah.
than it is. I again, growing up, I think we had similar experiences to them,
Mhm.
but not because we are so much more multicultural than they are.
Mhm.
I think we've allowed more other influences into our shops and salons, whereas they have kept it black American.
I think that's for barber shops. I would say
Yeah.
I find are way more, because like when I used to have like shaved
Mhm.
sides of my
Sides,
head, so
right.
I used to go to a barber shop, and I found that the barber shop was very very multicultural.
Mhm.
But our hair salons for women still like the hair
That
salon.
makes sense.
Hair salon I was at yesterday, right? It's for and it's very specific. It's a natural hair
Okay.
hair salon.
Mhm.
So you're not going there to get your hair relaxed. You can get a blowout, but you can't get your hair relaxed.
So it's really strictly business to the salon, where it's
Exactly.
more of a social
Mhm.
project. in the barbershop.
Right.
Yeah. And then that's why I said, like, that hair salon, like, I'll talk to the hairdresser, but for the most part, everybody's in their phones. That's a big part of it.
Yes.
That's
But
it.
generally,
A huge part of it
that's
is people
true.
are just in their
That's true.
phones now, whereas back in the day,
You didn't
you're
have
like,
a
you had a
phone.
magazine
Yep.
or
And
you
maybe a
talked to people.
TV in
Yeah.
the corner.
Yeah.
And then, but the thing is, everybody's watching the same show,
And talking.
and then you're talking
Yes.
about what you're watching.
That's
I used
So
to-
that.
I used to love hate those experiences.
me too.
Because you used to have to get up so damn early to go.
That's
But
the whole day.
Yeah.
the whole
Yep.
before the barber, of course, because he used to be following my mom
Yeah.
to the salon. Whole
Day.
day.
We never went
But,
to
you
the
know-
salon though.
No,
We just because
you know.
it's four of us going to a barbershop. Dad would just carry us there.
Yeah,
Boom, boom,
yeah,
boom.
yeah.
Four of us.
Yeah.
And again, that's a whole day process and you have to make sure because my dad was particular on who he wanted to cut our hair because he wanted that same style for all of us.
Mm.
So we had to wait for that person to get free, and then it's one after the other, one after the other, one after the other. And I'm like, man, it's a long process.
Mm.
Not only for the people, not only the kids sitting in the chair, but after the fact,
Waiting.
you're like waiting.
Yeah.
Luckily, there was a Pac-Man machine
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
and you'll be just, and you don't have money. You're just pretending you're playing it just to keep the timer, or you're just there
to grow
running
and talk.
yeah, and just running around, looking at
That's the
magazines.
fun part.
Yeah,
That's the fun part.
I
it was a long day.
So you're all boys, right?
4 boys, yeah.
So how connected were you to your mother's world and what she did and how the way she did things?
I was, when it came to me, and I can only speak for me. When it came to me, I was an extension to both my father and my mother in terms of
You're the oldest.
I know.
Okay.
So I had the responsibility to make sure nurturing these guys when they're growing up was there. At the same time, I had to have that iron fist to make sure I took every hit and every punch and every duty and responsibility. So it came on me. So when it came to, say, for instance, caring of the home, I was the one that was vacuuming, ironing, washing dishes, and so forth. The nurturing parts to make sure they're okay. They don't have to worry about that. At the same time, I had to make sure that they're, acting right, they're doing homework, they're playing right, and so forth on the responsibility and kind of rules and regulations from my dad's side. Because again, my dad would be doing crazy hours working wherever he was working, and my mom was again doing her thing. So the responsibility was me, probably 20 hours of the day.
Okay, but I think she's meaning more outside.
Outside of home?
In general. And like, I was like, how much time did you spend
With
with
your
your mom?
That type of.
Yeah. A lot. Like a lot.
Because whenever you talk about your parents, you only talk about your parents.
Because I'm my dad's twin.
But if you
No,
like,
okay. I
but
don't want to get emotional, but again,
I know, sorry.
my mother is gone.
Yeah.
My father's still here.
I
And
was gonna say my dad won't do it.
yeah, and that's the thing. I've blocked it out
Yeah.
because of how much like I'm only here because of her. Like I'm only here in Winnipeg, sorry, because of her, right? Because that was her wish. And I've told the story multiple times. She was not well. And at some point, I was going through the process of getting into corrections, and there was a break in time where I could come and visit my mom when she was sick, and no one knew. It was a surprise visit, and I jumped on the plane, bought my ticket, went to the airport, jumped on the plane, came here, took the bus because she was in hospital. Took the bus to Humber Hospital and jumped off. And I asked where she was. She went. They sent me to the floor she was at, and for some, God is good. She said she was getting released that day. So I walk in, and my dad saw me. He gave me a huge hug, whatever. And my mom. This is why it hurts me sometimes because my mom stood. She stood up. She was in bed comatose for how long? She stood up and she said, "Oh my gosh, this is the happiest day of my life." She took me. This is a person who was just in a coma. Took me by the hand and walked me around the whole floor, showing me off. This is my oldest son from Winnipeg. Like that's how that's how proud she was of us as boys, but mostly of me.
Yeah.
So when it came down to the last days of me being there, she was still not well. So I was sitting by her all the time, rubbing her feet, making sure she's okay. And she still had that motherly tone. I'm a night owl.
Mm.
So I'd be staying at home and I'd probably have a PlayStation on, I'd play it. She'd come down. I'm in my 30s. How about you? Why are you playing the games? Go to bed. Yes, Mom. Boom. Gone. So the ending of the story was the one that hurt me the most, because the last time I physically saw and touched my mother, I was at the airport, and my everybody's getting dropped off, so my dad was helping me with the bags, and she called me over and she gave me a hug, and then she went to her pocket like this. She gave me a $100 bill, and she whispered, "Don't tell your dad." and I put it in my room, and I never spent that dollar. I never spent that thing for 3 years.
Wow.
$100 bill. It was just an envelope in my dresser, just sat there.
Right.
Because when she passed, again, she passed by suicide. But when she passed, it hurt because I was there representing the family, representing her, and she can't enjoy the fruits of me finishing and doing whatever. So I'm like, man, I couldn't. And there was a time where she was on the phone calling me saying, "Just come home." I said, "I can't. You sent me somewhere to do something. I'm going to be finished." Call it stubborn, call it pride, whatever. But I want to make sure you get your money's worth for what I'm there for. I did that. And again, graduation, I had a picture. I took pictures with her picture with me to make sure. When I went back there, I went back to Toronto during a routine visit again. I was just taking all the stuff I could with her from her room and whatnot. I have some material that she used as a head tie in my house. I was ready to cut that and make it for my daughter, but I didn't want to ruin that nostalgia or whatever. So the closeness that you were asking about, I was close with her, but it was almost like an indirect closeness. I didn't have to be with her all the time. I was there, like everything school related. It was my mom. She made sure everything cooking was my mom, because she was a teacher back home. So all of that was my mom. Anything hard work and tools and whatnot was my dad, but discipline was my dad. So when it came to when you say again, how close was I with her? It's almost equal.
It's
So
just different.
it's just different.
Yeah.
So it's a different vibe, because everybody knows. Again, I was having a conversation with my friend Sean. I says during Christmas, because I think I don't know if it was you guys asking if my mom was the glue. I forget if it was you guys or her. So he was asking who was the glue to the family. I said my mom was, because come Christmas time, she would make all the presents for all the extended family, send me in the car and go deliver them, and I'd be proud of that, because everybody knew it was my mom who did it. That was the extension for her, and everyone knew. When it came to the baby ceremonies and the namings and the birthday parties and whatnot, and they were asking for my mom. They'd come to me, "Can you go do this?" And they sent me to my mom. My mom would send me, so I was her extension there. Always extension with her. And I would love to go back that time and have that. I can't, but I mean, that's it is what it is. Sorry, but
No, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
That's part of what made you, right? Like all of those, every single one of those experiences made all of us who we are, right? Like our interactions with our parents, what they taught us, how they showed up for us, how they didn't show up for us. Like, all those things are big parts of who we are.
For sure. And surprising that my daughter, who's 5, who's never met my mother, knows that that's grandma. And that's amazing. Like it was just out of the blue. Like I have a nice display of her, and there's a shirt and there's a newspaper clipping of when we buried her in Nigeria, and I have it in a glass case, and it's been there. And one day I was just asking, "Hey, Tom, do you know who that is?" I said, "That's grandma." What? And then people tell me, "Yeah, you know what? Spirits are around, and kids can see them more than us. They have that intuition type of thing." I'm like, okay, I'm happy with that. As long as you know, that's fine. That's fine.
I got a final question.
Yes.
It's two-part, but not really.
Mhm.
Oh
A
boy.
little bit lighter.
Okay.
So what would you say is the blackest thing that you do and the unblackest thing that you do? Where it could be as stereotypical as you want it or as unstereotypical as it, whatever you consider to be a black thing, with like the black thing that you do in life, and what is the non-black thing that you do?
I don't I would say mine is like the outside clothes. Like, like changing from my
That's
outside
the
clothes.
blackest thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Change from the outside to the inside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I don't like
Outside clothes,
he
inside.
knows. He knows that I'm like, you can't have, especially in my bedroom. Oh my gosh. Like if you go in my bedroom, you can't, like, I was reading a book and the title is, and that's black across North America
Mhm.
too, I would say, is don't sit on my bed in your
Yeah,
outside clothes.
Yeah.
I've heard of that. I was shocked when someone told me about that. I'm
Yeah.
like, wow.
What was the non-black
Yeah.
thing?
Non-black thing? Oh god.
You can do as a quick correct. I can say the white thing, but let's say non.
Really? Is it a white thing or just a
Yeah. Or yeah. Non-black thing.
But what is non-black anymore, right? Like
Yeah,
I'm
it was
just kind
really
of like I feel like the thing that makes me feel a little ostracized sometimes from the black community,
Okay.
that's what I say, is my beliefs in terms of like religion. I would say my non-religious beliefs. That's what I'll say.
Mhm.
My
That makes sense.
non-religious beliefs.
Yeah, black people are very, very religious, very,
Very,
very.
very, and
That makes
very
sense.
judgmental if you're not.
Good to know. That makes sense.
That's true. Blackest thing that I've ever done.
Eat jollof?
That's a normal thing. That's a normal thing. I'm trying to figure out.
By the way, he has never had jollof.
No.
No?
No.
I know. He just told me that
I've
the
never had
other
African
day.
Jesus Christ.
I know. He just told me that the other
Never
day.
had African food.
Never.
I almost picked you. Remember when I was driving by there's a Nigerian restaurant right by where I went to the hairdresser
Yeah.
last week, and I was like, I was like, oh, shit. Next time I'm over there, I'm getting you something, even though I've never been there. So
Just order it.
I know. No, because I'm very picky about everywhere that I like. There's specific places that you go to for specific things,
Fair enough.
right? But
I don't know the
I-
restaurants
exactly.
here, so I'm like, okay.
You gotta try it. To find out.
If it's not homegrown though, like if it's
But
not
yeah.
homemade,
But
it might be different. But
Yeah.
I was watching a video, almost like a sketch, and I don't know if it's common, but rinsing my toothbrush before I start brushing my teeth.
that's normal, isn't it?
A lot
People
of
don't do that.
with toothpaste on it or with
no,
Without.
with both. I do it first to rinse it off because it's in there,
Yeah.
and then when I put the toothpaste on, I put again a little water to.
Yeah, I like to
Awesome.
wet. I like my toothbrush wet, but I think that was also because I don't know.
Again,
I don't know where
that's
it
me.
came from.
And then it's funny how
I know.
the skit said, don't talk to me if you don't rinse your toothbrush before you come talk to me.
Like you
That's-
said,
that's-
That's how intense it was.
That's it.
nothing that is actually black and non-black.
True.
It's
That's
your interpretation.
Not you.
So what's your non-black / white / Anglo-Saxon?
And this is probably recent. I went to go get the mail, which is not at my door. It was a little station, whatever, in a robe, in slippers, in winter.
In winter.
Yeah.
So,
You
no,
have to put that word.
it's in winter.
But no, I was with you from the beginning. But
I wasn't.
in winter, it's like
I went there
It's
in
that.
the yeah. I just and again, it's not a quick around the corner. I have to go down the back lane, and people are seeing me in this robe, and I'm like, whatever. It's just the mail, and went back home. So that's again something I would never do before.
yeah.
I kind of because I won't go anywhere in a bonnet, so that's
That's more, yeah.
I won't go anywhere in a week. The blackest thing for me is I use a washcloth to bathe. apparently
Apparently,
that's a
Apparently it's a
people-
fourth.
That's the fourth thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
apparently.
That's not
But no, that's
Mm.
but I'll use it. That's not the blackest thing. The blackest thing I think for myself is speaking with slang sometimes.
It's Toronto slang.
Yeah,
Comes out sometimes.
sometimes.
it
My
do-
Toronto, my Jamaican patois comes out sometimes. It's not necessarily a black thing, but
That's more of just a Toronto thing, though, I think.
now it is.
Yeah.
Once upon a time,
Yeah.
that's
No,
one.
you're right.
Now it is.
Yeah.
My non.
I thought you said you knew that one.
Did I?
Yeah.
My non.
This is having some issues.
Black, bro.
You're not Middle
Black,
Eastern?
I,
My dad, I was like, side note, you can think about that. Side note, my dad was like, you have a boyfriend and his name is Muhammad?
Look, Ahmed.
I was
Ahmed.
like, no, his name is Omar. And he's like,
absolutely.
yes. He's like, so what's his background? And I was like, Jamaican? And he's like, well, you know, like his culture. And I'm like, he's black. he's like, oh, I thought he was like that name. I thought he was like Arab. And but the worst part about it is we FaceTime with him.
How?
That's right.
We did. That's what I was
Yeah.
like.
No, did we?
Yeah.
No, I don't think we did.
Oh, we were just talking on
Your
the phone.
brother and your sister.
I swear we had FaceTime and I was like, you saw him and still got that.
Hilarious.
I don't
but
think so. No.
Answer.
Non-blackest thing I do is read.
Stop.
I'm joking.
Not even funny.
I can't actually think of something right now. Why can't I think of something? I can't think of anything. Non-black, I know, I'm sure. I'm sure there's something. You don't know anything?
That's the thing. It's hard to say what's non-black.
That's the thing.
Like when
But
you
even
put out
from
the
my
question.
viewpoint, I can't really think of it.
You believe in the 5-second rule.
You know what? I don't believe in that. Yeah, I do believe in the concept. But similar to you as well, it is my religious beliefs. I think that's probably.
But
You're non-religious.
Yeah, I'm not really- well,
What-
I consider it my religious belief, but I don't believe it.
side question though, why is that? Like what put you off? Both of you, what put you off in terms of religion, knowing that it is a very, very proud
I
thing
feel
for
like
black people?
That's going to be a whole other show.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I also feel that religion is part of, we were enslaved by religion.
No, again, I would definitely respect that answer because it's true.
Yeah.
And there's a book that was made for us to believe in, and we believed it.
And it helped to indoctrinate us. And I
Now,
lighten the power.
I'm a religious guy, so I mean, I have my views on it. But again,
Mhm.
I know that I am okay to question it. Before, I never used to question it,
Yes,
but now I question it because
that
some
is
things
it
just-
for me. I question.
Yeah.
I'm not a non-believer. And sorry, let's be very specific. I'm not saying I don't believe in God. I don't believe in religion. There's a difference, and people don't. A lot of people.
Yeah,
don't
no,
understand
you're right.
There's a difference. The reason why I don't believe in religion is because I think that's just a division of man. Like, we just came up with all these different ways to believe in the same thing. Do I know that there's a God? I don't know. Do I think? I still don't know. But I don't believe in the division, and I've studied. I grew up Pentecostal, went to Catholic Church. My first name is a Muslim name. I studied a few religions, and they pretty much are all the same. So I don't understand
Mhm.
why we have these things and why we're fighting over it.
Well, that's where everything is used to
Yes.
divide us constantly.
Yeah.
There was a long time where I was just like, I believe in God, but I'm just not religious. But I think I used to say that just not to be ostracized even more.
Yes.
yeah,
I honestly, I don't really believe in God.
Mhm.
I believe that there is something bigger than us,
Mhm.
not the God that everybody talks about.
And
Because it's a little too black and white, hell and heaven. And I don't believe in that whole aspect of it.
Yeah.
So it's just like God is watching you and God is judging you constantly. And I was like, if there is a higher power, if there is something bigger than us, they're not it makes God to a certain extent. The way that people put it is like God is evil to a certain. It seems more evil than
Some people
it
think he
is. Yeah,
Like me.
and that's I can't wrap my brain around that and live my life
We
in
definitely
terms
have
of
that.
yeah,
It's
yeah, exactly.
I have in philosophy.
Yeah,
We are the gods.
yeah.
We as the people.
Our God is within us.
It's actually it's in the Bible that you are God. But a lot of the
that's
religious
blasphemy.
followers consider that
Yeah,
blasphemy.
people think
It's
that's wrong,
idolatry
Tom.
and idolatry. But we are made in His image. Even if you go to that route, we're a form of a God. We do everything that a God that they've given God. We make life. We could take it. We we could make. We could create things.
Yeah, you can
We're
structures.
creators. So anyway, that's a whole different subject. So
But yeah, I think that's a great
let's leave our
topic.
blackness there.
Might
Let's
need-
fade to black.
All right, that's it. That's all. Another great hometown show. Thank you for your hospitality, Miss Jones.
You're welcome.
Indeed,
Although I'm still parched.
indeed.
It's hot. It's by the way, it's very hot here. So if you see us all shifting,
Yeah,
it's hot.
it is.
But we black. We like barbecue.
That's it. That's all. We're out of here. Peace and love. We'll do it again soon. Out.
Next time in Winnipeg.
Oh, wow.
You
Okay.
stopped it. You stopped it. Good
No.
thing you stopped. Oh, damn. No commitment.